So we're gonna take a little bit of a pause on the Malibu because I bought a new toy. 2012 Chevy Silverado, regular cab, short box, as you can see, 5.3 liter 6L80E prime for all the upgrades that I'm gonna throw at it. Thing was super clean, is super clean. That's why I bought it, complete impulse buy. Don't follow me on my financial decisions. They are poor, they're terrible, but I'm having fun, and that's all that matters. So today, we're gonna be upgrading the suspension. We're gonna fix that, that elevation problem that it's having right there. We're gonna bring it a little bit more down to earth, and I'll show you what we got to help that out. First, I kind of want to go over a few things that I did to kind of upgrade stylistically with the truck. My whole theme with this thing is, what if GM actually kept making muscle trucks? Like, what would they look like? So this is actually what it looked like before. Yeah, complete grandpa truck with all that chrome and everything. As you can see, I completely deleted all of that, blacked out the headlights, everything switched over to LED. I still have a few trim pieces on the side there to get rid of, to clean this thing up a little bit better. I plan on doing like a full paint correction once this thing is done, but we're going to be adding a lot more power in there, and upcoming videos I'll show you step by step on how I'm going to do that. So yeah, if you want to come along on this journey, please hit the subscribe button, because this is going to be a fun truck when it's done. So in order to get the suspension dialed in, I went with a Belltech kit. I believe this is like a 5.3 drop with coilovers up front, which is super trick. They're not the super fancy ones with adjustable dampening, but those will work just fine for this truck. Definitely a huge upgrade. Plus that sway bar will help out a lot. Plus I'm upgrading a bunch, well, not really upgrading, but like replacing all the wear parts that are in the front suspension, because while you're in there, you may as well do it. The truck has a few miles on it. Better be safe than sorry. Plus something's gonna break. You're gonna tear stuff apart, something's gonna break. You're gonna have holdups. So I just kind of anticipated that by just getting everything new. The first thing I think I'm gonna tackle is the rear end. So let's get to it. First things first, obviously you want to get it up on jack stands, Harbor Freight jack stands, so I might die, we'll see. Also, chalk the front wheels, because I don't want to die, we'll see. Industrial strength power washer, I took to the frame yesterday, and as you can see, it is bare, completely bare. That thing is awesome, but gonna have to address that, gonna have to paint it. I'm probably gonna use like a truck bed liner spray or something on there, just to beef it up a little bit, but only after I cut off those bump stops and do all the rest of the work that needs to be done. First thing I'm actually going to do is remove the shocks and the drive shaft. So let's get to that. So the next step is going to be a fun one. I got to drop the fuel tank, because that bolt up there that holds the front of the leaf spring in, you cannot get out unless you take the fuel tank out. So 2 bolts there, 3 bolts that hold the filler neck in, kind of lower it down, see what's all hooked up, and unhook it. Make sure your fuel tank is at close to E as possible. Mine is not, mine's half full, so this might suck a little bit, but we'll still get it done. So on a scale of 1 to suck, I'm gonna go with completely sucked. That wasn't fun, to be honest with you. Just make sure you disconnect everything. I just completely disconnected that purge solenoid there. There's a connection here that you have to disconnect. Some kind of vacuum source there that you have to disconnect. And then GM, for whatever reason, I guess what I struggled with, I was like, oh, red must mean fuel. So I disconnected this one first. Nothing came out. I was like, I'm safe. And then I disconnected this one. No, this is the fuel feed. And then I kind of sprayed myself with gasoline. So that was kind of fun. And the little trick to get these ones unclipped is you just kind of push these 2 tabs in and push up, or try to get a screwdriver behind there. And this unclips up like that. And then you can just pull it off. Yeah, that was a chore and a half. But we got it done. Next, I got to drop this axle down to kind of get it on my way so I can remove the leaf springs and get at the perches and the bump stops to be able to cut them off. So you can see the U-bolts right there. Just got to loosen those, and I'll support it with jack stands and just kind of drop it down and out of the way. Be mindful of your brake lines. Don't stretch those. You got to keep that all kind of intact and in an area where it's comfortable and not pulling on anything. So with that done, I'm supposed to take the leaf springs back out, but I'm just kind of realizing that my exhaust might be in the way. So I think I'm going to take that out because I need to remove this bolt here. And obviously there's no room between the actual muffler and the frame there to get that bolt out. So I'm going to get the exhaust off, and then I'm going to get these leaf springs off, and then you have to change the pin, like from the top to the bottom. So that has to come apart. I'm going to use some clamps to hold it together while I do that, and then flip it around and put that back together. Make sure you mark them right and left. So in order to get this factory exhaust off, it disconnects here at this clamp. But as you can see, that is so corroded that that's not going to come apart easily. I wasn't really planning on doing exhaust at this moment, but it looks like we're gonna. So roll the punches, I'll order that up, and this just turned into a suspension and exhaust video. This is the center locating pin on the leaf pack. You have to reverse this, and then you can ditch the stock U-bolt locating plate there. We don't need this with the new Belltech system. So I'm just gonna undo this. As you can see, I got it soaked in penetrating oil, and then just flip it around, put it back through, bolt it back together, take the C-clamp out, and these things are good to go. Now it's time to get to the cutting. Bump stop. This has got to go, this whole bracket system here, and then I'm going to smooth the frame out. And then this bracket down here that holds the brake line and the sensor, obviously unhook these, get them out of the way before you cut this off. And then that rear shackle hanger there, they're basically riveted in. So just make a T-cut on those. Those should pop right off with an air chisel. So that's a fairly dirty, messy job in order to cut, grind, and just clean up everything, the frame rails. Now that we got that done, it's a good opportunity to clean up, and that's what I did. You can see my area is nice and tidy, the way I like it. I'm gonna go ahead and prime all the bare areas of metal, and then I'm gonna hit it with Duplicolor truck bed coating here. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by anybody because I'm not fancy, but this stuff works great. Gives it a nice textured, rough look, and that will protect it for years to come. And then once that dries, we can go ahead and start reassembly. Now that I'm pretty buzzed up on fumes, you can see this frame looks a lot better. Nice sheen black, same thing with the axle. Everything underneath is all painted again. I'm gonna let this sit and dry overnight. In the morning, get back on it. It's the next day, time to reassemble that rear end. First thing we gotta tackle is those rear shackle hangers. You got two locations for a 5-inch drop and a 6-inch drop. We're gonna go with the 6-inch drop, so I'm gonna show you what that looks like when we mock that in. So these are the rear shackle hangers that come in the kit. If you want the 5-inch, you go with these bolts. If you want the 6-inch, you go with these bolts. But if you go with the 6-inch, underneath here, because it mounts here, it's gonna come in contact with this lip right here, this seam for the bed. You gotta either cut that out or whack it up. I prefer whacking it. So just, whack it up. Whatever paint you get off there, obviously you can see I just kind of recoated everything. Then we can just bolt this thing right in. So I'm gonna have to back it up here just a little bit because I lied because I didn't read the instructions. If you want a 6-inch drop, you have to reuse your stock shackles. So I'm somewhere in between there because I used the shackles that the kit came with. But I'm just gonna see where it sits once everything's back together and it's on the ground, because my tires are pretty beefy and I don't want them rubbing or hitting, and I just want to see how far my gap is. So once that's all determined, I'll see if I'm going to throw these things in or not. But side note, if you want 6-inch drop, you got to run these. So I got the hanger and I pre-mounted the shackle, and you have to source some new hardware for that top piece because the old hardware used a captured nut in the hanger itself. And you can get a new nut for this if this bolt is still good, but you'd have to install it this way, like pre-install it and then install the bracket onto the frame in order to make that work. But I just went ahead and got new hardware just because. Next thing I'm gonna do is install the bump stop. I gotta drill and tap a hole somewhere in this area here where the old bump stop was. And then after that, we can put the leaf springs back in. So my whole goal there was to lower the truck down to get the axle and everything into a correct position so I don't have to fight it at all. This way I can get the leaf spring up onto the shackle and put the new brackets in to put the new well, you got to reuse your old U-bolts, but that way you don't have to fight anything. And then that way I can kind of lower the axle down onto the leaf springs in order to set everything correctly. So I just ran into a little bit of an issue here. You want these tabs up here to fit flush underneath the old mounting bracket there, but it moves around. You can see I got a gap in between there. So I'm gonna have to trim this bracket down on these edges here with a flap disc in order to make sure that that fits flush and it touches on both sides here. So you can see it just took a little bit off of each edge there. And now, there's no play. It's locked in the top. Should be good to go. That way your pinion angle isn't going to be messed up or anything. So we're getting so close to wrapping up this rear end. Last thing I got to do, install the transfer case spacer kit. Fairly simple. Just remove the skid plate and then jack up the transfer case just enough to slide these little spacers in, and then they provide new hardware, put it all back together, and that should be a wrap on the rear end. There we go. These are the spacers here that you have to put in for the four-wheel drive. The two-wheel drive actually comes with a block that's supposed to go in between the transmission mount and the cross member itself. Side note, GM, they put a lot of red thread locker on this bolt here and this bolt here, so it was a big pain to get those things out. And while everything was apart, as you can see, I just cleaned it all up and painted everything again. And then you just reassemble it, and then that should be good to go. So that's pretty much a wrap for me on this rear end setup from Belltech. Obviously, if you're doing this at home, you want to put the fuel tank back in, same way you took it out, same thing with the exhaust. But because I'm changing both of those up in the near future, I'm gonna wait to see like when I get my parts in, because some of these parts are on back order. I think I'm gonna break this up into 2 different videos because this was pretty involved, and I know the front's even gonna be more involved. So the next video, we're gonna tackle the front. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Consider hitting that subscribe button if you want to see the rest of this truck come to life. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.